Well, that sucked. So week one for the Detroit Lions certainly did not go as planned as they lose in week one, 27-13 to the Green Bay Packers. And saying 27-13 is generous because they scored a touchdown with like 50 seconds left. Incredible catch by Isaac Tesla, we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, that game was very not competitive at all. The Packers came out flying. They played with purpose. They played with a just level of energy that was indicative of a team that was sick of losing to Detroit over the last number of years. And the Lions, pretty much everything that fans and media were concerned about coming into the season was on full display. Basically everything that happened in this game was reinforcing all the narratives that have been peddled over the last few weeks coming into the season. The Packers they looked like a team that will compete for the NFC North title. The Lions looked like a team that was destined for some regression. Now, granted, those are extreme reactions, but the overreaction Monday is going to be insane tomorrow, and I'm not looking forward to the reaction online from this game. But we do have to talk about the fact that the Lions were very bad in this game. And when I say the Lions were bad, I mean most of the team was just subpar, but the offense was horrible. The defense and special team, the defense was fine, sort of. Like I had problems with them, but they were a lot more contained. The special teams was just like sort of bad, like the whole game. The returns, giving up way too many good returns, not great kick coverage, not great returns of their own, not great blocking, some flags, whatever. But the defense was relatively okay. The problem was the offense was useless for pretty much the entire day. When it mattered most, the Lions had 6 points for most of the day. The Packers were just dominating on defense. And it comes down to a few things. One is, as we talked about in the preview a couple of days ago, is that the Packers love to not play prevent, but like they love to take away the big play and force you to be patient on offense. And that was on full display the entire day. Jared Goff had to check it down to his running backs so many times that it was nauseating every time Jahmyr Gibbs touched the football because he had like 10 receptions for like 25 yards. Or sorry, 10 receptions for 31 yards. It was super inefficient, and even when Goff was passing to other people, Sam Laporta had a couple of nice catches to start the second half, but there just wasn't a downfield threat at all. Jameson Williams, the deep shot was taken away all day. Amon-Ra St. Brown, any catches he got were short. There was very little intermediate work in this game, and I think that's the crux of it is, okay, the Packers take away the big play, but the Lions weren't even having any chunks in this game. There was like the one catch to Amon-Ra early on where he had to make an incredible toe tap on the sideline, and then a couple of nice plays to Sam Laporta to start the second half, and that was it. The Lions had nothing that was further than 10 yards downfield for pretty much the entire game. So credit to the Packers for just having excellent coverage downfield and not giving the Lions any opportunities to take a shot. And also credit to the Packers defensive line because they were giving the interior of the offensive line some fits. Again, I talked about it in the preview, but to me, for as much as the hype around the edges versus the tackles was the kind of focal point from the media perspective, to me, the most interesting matchup was the interior of the Lions offensive line against the interior of the Packers, because it was unproven versus unproven. And on this day, the Packers were a lot better on the interior. Graham Glasgow had some struggles with pass protection, but I was a lot more concerned with the young guns, Christian Mahogany and Tate Ratledge, who, for as much as I have high expectations for them and I'm not concerned about them long term, we knew there was going to be growing pains, and there were several in this game. There was one play in particular, Lucas Van Ness just bull rushed right through Christian Mahogany and got a sack, and Mahogany was just left on the ground. There was another play where the Lions were backed up on their own 2-yard line, and Tate Ratledge, there was some sort of miscommunication. He just left the nose tackle unblocked, which resulted in a tackle for loss, almost a safety. So yeah, the young guys were just not very good in this game. The tackles were fine. Obviously, people are going to hype up Micah Parsons, as they should if you're a Packers fan. He got the 1 sack at the end of the game, but he was okay on the snap count. Like, he wasn't the most impactful, but some of the other defensive players, Devonte Wyatt, he also beat Tate Ratledge clean for a sack on a 4th down that really ended the game. And some of the other interior guys were just doing work against the Lions front. And we know that Jared Goff struggles against pressure up the middle. That was on full display. Goff looked a little antsy, even on plays where there wasn't any pressure. He just looked a little antsy, looked like he was a little unsure of himself, and it certainly was not a banner day for the play calling either. John Morton, I don't know what exactly went wrong, but for whatever reason, all of the talk about pushing the ball downfield and getting the ball into the hands of these explosive players, we didn't really see that in any meaningful way in this game. It was a very safe game plan. It was a very cautious game plan. And it really showed. The Lions looked like they were afraid to take chances in this game. And part of that is the Packers defense kind of forced their hand with that. But part of it is also just the way that the Lions were drawing up plays. It was very safe. I think the plan was fully to ease into this game and try to get the run game going, but the run game obviously did not get going in any meaningful way at all. The Lions just struggled really in all facets offensively. David Montgomery had some success because he was able to just drag defenders forward for a couple of yards. Jahmyr Gibbs, probably his worst day rushing the football in his career so far. And yeah, just not a banner day for anyone on the offensive side. The only person who gets a shout out is Isaac TeSlaa, because on his first career catch, he makes just the most insane circus one-handed catch toe tap that was honestly insane. And I'm so mad that that play happened in a game that was so out of hand, because if that had happened in a close game, like say that was to tie the game, I would have lost my mind. That was one of the most unbelievable catches by a Lions player in the last number of years. I can't recall the last time I've seen a Lions player make a catch that spectacular. It was unbelievable. And for your first career catch, first career touchdown, so congrats to Isaac TeSlaa for that. I know, obviously, the game, it's not the kind of game you would want that play to happen, but your first catch is your first catch, your first touchdown is your first touchdown, and honestly, I don't know if TeSlaa will ever have a nicer touchdown than that in his career. As for the defensive side of the ball, it was fine. Like I said, to start off with, the run defense was actually pretty good for most of the day. Obviously, in the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, Josh Jacobs had a couple extra runs to stat pad a little bit. But when the Packers were running up the middle, the Lions front was doing a fantastic job of meeting either Josh Jacobs or whoever at the line of scrimmage. The guys in the middle, DJ Reader, Tyleik Williams, Davenport was in there a couple times too, like Roy Lopez as well. They were doing a great job on the interior. However, whenever the Packers ran to the outside, Hutchinson was okay, but like he was crashing inside a little bit too much. He wasn't as good setting the edge. Davenport, same thing. The Lions were not setting the edge very well in this game, and it showed because the most successful runs the Packers had all day were on outside runs. Speaking of Hutchinson, just not exactly the return that we were hoping for. There was a lot of chipping, a lot of double teams. He was dropping into coverage a couple more times than I was comfortable with, but he was also lined up very wide on a lot of snaps, to the point where, you know, after you get chipped, it would take him like 2 seconds just to get to the tackle to begin rushing the passer. He had at least one QB hit in this game, and he had a couple pressures, but he just didn't really have an opportunity to just rush the passer. And credit to the Packers as well. Anytime the Lions dialed up pressure, dialed up blitzes, tried to get creative with their pressure up front, the Packers offensive line was ready for it. Anytime the Lions blitzed, they picked it up perfectly. Anytime there were stunts or twists or anything that was trying to confuse them, they did a fantastic job protecting Jordan Love. The Lions didn't get him on the ground at all in this game. And that resulted in Love being able to pick apart this secondary. For as much as I've praised the secondary and said that they are very talented, it can only cover for so long. And another thing coming out of this game, Terrion Arnold left with a groin injury, did not return, so that'll be interesting to watch. Is he going to be okay? Is he going to be able to play next week? We're going to have to monitor that. And that also ended up being super crucial for a very unfortunate reason. You see, Rock Ya-Sin came into the game to replace Terrion Arnold, and there was a play where Brian Branch got a pick six, and it got called back for a holding against Rock Ya-Sin that not only negated the touchdown, but the takeaway, so the Packers kept the ball. Now, granted, it wouldn't have counted anyways because Hutchinson got an unnecessary roughness for blocking Jordan Love on the run back, so it wouldn't have been a touchdown anyways, but just super unfortunate missed opportunity there. Brian Branch made such an incredible play, too. Is what it is. One meant to be. The biggest thing with the defense in this game, though, is the fact that the pass rush just had no juice. Hutchinson wasn't able to generate a lot of pressure, and that meant no one was generating pressure. I think the only pressure they got was Pat O'Connor when he was rushing from the edge, one play that resulted in a dropped pick for Alex Anzalone. Al-Qadim Muhammad had a QB hit. Hutch had a QB hit. That's about it. There just wasn't a lot going for the pass rush. And then in the high leverage moments when the secondary needed to hold up, the Packers were ready with their man beaters. There was one drive in particular that really killed everything for the Lions, where I think it was 10-3 at the time, and Love just comes out, sends a bomb to Romeo Doubs, and the very next play they just run a pick route and a pick concept, and it results in Jayden Reed getting open over the top for a touchdown. So what are you going to do? You call that much man, the other team's going to be prepared for it. The Packers knew what to game plan for. Credits to them. They just played a good game. And honestly, I don't have a ton of analysis aside from that. Like, you watch the game with your own eyes. You know, Lions bad, Packers good. That's kind of the long and short of it. There was not a lot of intricacies to what made the Lions bad in this one. The Packers took away the big play, forced them to check it down, and they got pressure on Goff, which made him a little skittish. And then on defense, for as much as the Lions did a decent job stopping the run, when it mattered on the key plays, the high leverage plays, the Packers were able to dial up their man beaters and they were able to execute on those plays. And for as much, like 27-13, whatever, like 27 points against looks bad. The Packers had fantastic field position for most of the game. That really helped them. I don't think the defensive performance was as bad as the points show, but at the same time, the 13 points is probably being generous to the offense. So it's going to be a long week for Lions fans as everyone is going to overreact to what just happened on the field in Lambeau. First time the Lions have lost in Lambeau since like 2021, I believe, which, not excited about that, but definitely looking forward to that game against the Packers on Thanksgiving. I have that one circled now a little bit harder in my mind because I really want to beat the stupid Packers. But that's going to be it for this video. Like I said, there's just not much else to say aside from the fact that the Packers just executed at a much higher level than the Lions did on this Sunday in week 1. So yeah, that's really all I have to say. It's just an unfortunate game. I'm a lot more upset with the Lions' performance. Like, I feel like the Lions played a bad game more so than the Packers played a good one, if that makes sense. Like, obviously the Packers played a good game. I don't want to downplay that. But I think it's more, in my mind, I'm putting it more on the Lions failing to live up to the moment versus the Packers just overwhelming them. Everything that happened in this game was playing into the Packers' hands, so the Lions just need to get back to reestablishing their brand of football, and they'll get back to that next week against the Bears at home. Hopefully that game goes a lot better because, woo, could you imagine their narratives if the Lions start 0-2? That would be horrible. But at the same time, the Lions are chronically incapable of starting 2-0, so if you're 1-1 through 2 weeks, that's about what they've been for the last number of years anyways, so I won't sweat it too much. So that's going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Hit like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe with notifications turned on if you loved it. I was streaming today during the game. You can go watch my live reactions if you feel like going back to watch those. And I'm going to be live for every Lions game throughout the season with the exception of Thanksgiving. So make sure you tune into the stream. We had a great turnout on the stream for it being such a small channel. Had some lovely interactions with viewers. So yeah, super thankful for that. Make sure you check out the streams in the future. Comment down below what you thought of this game. If you're a Lions fan, Packers fan, neutral fan, I don't care. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear from you in general. So yeah, aside from that, see you guys next time. Cheers.